What's up, everybody? I have a lot to show you in the garden today. I got a lot done this weekend, so I thought I would take you around the property to each section that I've got things growing. You can start with the green stalks right outside the back door. Not much has changed here, other than things are growing. I've got some basil seeds starting. My cilantro that I transplanted and direct sowed is doing well. I think I've got just about every pocket planted. Let me see. Yeah, so the last two were on them. This was supposed to be, the bottom level was supposed to be all mint. So yesterday at Fred Meyer, I found lemon mint, so I'm gonna plant that in there. And I also planted some lemon balm seeds in this last pocket. So then it will be finally complete. I've already used some of the chives and some of the cilantro, and I want to start preserving a lot of these herbs. I have a freeze dryer, but it happens to be back at the factory being repaired, and I may not get it back for like 3 or 4 weeks, so maybe I'll just have to start trimming these and just putting them in freezer bags until my freeze dryer comes back. And the lettuce is doing really, really well. We've got more lettuce than we can eat, honestly. We gotta start eating it now before it gets really hot and it goes bitter on us. It's just pretty to look at though, too. Strawberries are doing great. We've got, let's see, tiny strawberries on a lot of these. Let's see. I think I have 5 different varieties planted this year. And all of them are doing great. I labeled all of them so I'll know. These are almost all new varieties to me that are supposed to be good for this area. So when it's time to start tasting these, I'm gonna be able to identify which ones I like the best since I tagged them. And then in the future, I might add more of those. I'm debating about turning the back garden into a strawberry bed, like a big strawberry patch, but I don't know yet. This one's just random flowers and plants, and there's a couple of habanada peppers in there, some petunias that I had started in the AeroGarden seed starting system. They're doing great. I didn't harden them off or anything. I just put them straight out. It was a sunny, warm day, and usually I would definitely harden off plants before I put them outside, but these didn't seem to care. So they're doing great. I added another planter. Here's more of the petunias that I'd started in the green stock. The AeroGarden. Some of them are looking a little, these ones were left in there a little too long before I planted them out, but I know that they're gonna recover. And then some, I forget what these are called. I don't think I left the tag. Some sort of daisy. I'm sure somebody knows what that is. And then my petunia tower with the spiral, that one row with the pinks and purple mix is taking forever to catch up with the rest. And it's also getting hard to keep up with deadheading these things too. So I guess we'll walk over to the raised bed area next. All right, lots of changes. I was busy all weekend. This is the front bed, which the last time you saw it had just a bunch of moving boxes that I had put down for some weed blocking, and my starts were kind of sitting here. This now has my peppers planted in it. I'm gonna open a side so you can see. All right, let's peek in there. All right, they're a little hard to see because they're still really small and there's a thick layer of straw mulch, but I planted, I forget how many varieties. I have several types of jalapeno. I think 3 different types of jalapeno. I have poblanos, Anaheims, Ajvarsky, shishito, and at least 1 habanada in here. I think that's it. These are the ones I cook with the most, except shishitos are new to me. I've had them in a restaurant before, but it was a long time ago, so I really wanted to try them. And the habanada I've never grown before, so. But all the rest, these are familiar to me and I cook with them a lot. The reason I put the plastic over this is because our heat wave ended and temps were supposed to drop below 50 at night. And I've heard that if peppers are planted outside and the temps go below 50, they may be stunted. So I put the plastic on just as an extra insurance that hopefully they're going to be okay. I planted peppers out before in the past without understanding that rule, and they did okay. They did have a slow start though, so we'll see what this does. These tomatoes that have been here, I did not finish putting my upper cages on, but I did buy some at I think Walmart, and so I've got those ready to go. Tomatoes are starting to bloom on several different of my tomato varieties. I also have plans of putting I had started some marigold seeds, winter sown, and which are right here, and so I'm going to put at least one marigold between each tomato plant in both of my tomato beds, just for pest deterrent and also just some color to mix it up. And then the broccoli, it's hard to see through this bug netting, but I think I might have some little broccoli heads. Nope, not these ones. Well, here's our carrots, cilantro down the middle. I'm hoping that my broccoli just doesn't just go straight to seed, because we had that week-long heat wave until the other day. And so if it gets too hot, broccoli won't really form good heads. It'll just go straight to seed. So we're gonna have to see. The weather has cooled down a lot more now. But I don't know if it's cooled down soon enough. Nice. Cilantro also likes cooler weather, so I might add some shade cloth to this bed. I'm just waiting for it to come in. I actually ordered some. Here we go. We have a little broccoli. Focus. We'll see if that gets any bigger. I hope so. But that's good. And then this bed is the taller bed. I put some bush bean seeds, about I think 3 or 4 rows here. The variety I like of bush beans is called Kalima. I like them because the beans are a little bit easier to see. They don't hide quite as much as other varieties. And I also put them in this taller bed because it's a good height that I can like sit on a little stool right next to the bed as I harvest the beans. Don't have to bend over. And on the back side of this bed, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I put in some summer squash. We're not actually big squash fans in my house. I mostly planted these for my mom and for my chickens, and maybe I'll grill some of them. We'll just see. The varieties I planted are a yellow patty pan scallop squash, yellow straight neck, and a zucchini. In this bed, this is the volunteer potatoes, but I've added 3 tomatillo plants to the back of it. I'm hoping they're going to green up. They were kind of getting a little root bound, waited a little too long to put them in the ground, but I think they'll recover. I've given them some fertilizer. And then here's just more volunteer potatoes. And then we have the grow bag potatoes. A couple of these are getting tall enough that I can add a little more straw mulch. And then for watering, I've got this overhead sprinkler tripod. It's only watering, it's not watering behind it. It's just watering in this direction. I'm gonna need to put a soaker hose on the peppers because with that plastic on there, obviously they're not gonna get any water this way. So that's on my to-do list. And I don't know if I've mentioned before, but this plastic stuff, these are silage tarps, which are actually, let me see if I can find it. Silage tarps are actually old, you know the billboards you see? Giant billboards on the side of the freeway in some cities? That's what these are. They're recycled and you can buy them. Here's one. This little picture shows what the billboard is on the other side. So, but there was black on one side and the pictures on the other. So this one says no campfires. It's probably from California. We have some kind of C4. I don't even know what that is. I think I have a Geico one. But the whole reason I put these down is because the weeds in this section were completely out of control. There had been an in-ground garden here before, but because there were some potatoes just randomly growing in certain places. But I don't have any immediate plans for this space. So here's a better view from, you can see the silage tarps, or is it silage tarps? I'm not even sure. The greenhouse and the beds. And so this area with the silage tarps or silage tarps is the larger portion of this fenced in space. And I definitely, initially I wanted to put more beds in this space, but we're on a slope and the steeper part of the slope happens to be this half. When we go down on the other side of the beds, which is towards our front side yard, there's a huge space open between some trees, and it's a lot flatter down there. So for now, I think my plan is to just keep this covered to at least keep the weeds under control. It's really hard to mow. We have a tractor that barely fits in this space. And my husband has one of those zero-turn mowers, but he doesn't want me using that in this space because the ground is uneven. He's afraid of rocks, something. And we have a push mower, but it's electric and it runs out of battery after like 10 square feet. So it's kind of worthless. Came from the suburban house. So for now, the plan is just keep these tarps here, or possibly I have some really thick landscaping material. I might replace these tarps with that because then at least water can get through and it will hopefully keep the weeds down, but the water and air can still get through. And then at least it will be under control and I'll be able to decide later what, if anything, I want to do with this space. Who knows? Maybe I can expand the fruit tree orchard into this space and do the garden beds down further towards the front. I'm not sure. Lots of options, but I definitely want to expand. I'm also actually debating about if I want to add some kind of at least temporary corn bed in this space this year. I have lots of soil still to work with. I could just, make a good block. Corn is better planted in blocks than in rows for pollination. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, 10 feet by 4 or 5 feet in, maybe a couple of blocks like that. It's just, do I have the motivation to create that area and to put the landscaping cloth down around it so that, it doesn't get out of control with the weeds again. My other option is to plant the corn back in my husband's garden, which we'll go to in a minute. I think I've mentioned before, but these beds that came with the house, I think they're closer to 5 feet wide, which is just too wide to put things down the middle. But I don't want to be trying to, harvest things from the middle of the row and falling on my face into the bed, which I know is what would happen. So you can't see, but the peppers I planted around the perimeter so that I would be able to harvest more easily. And down the middle of this bed, I have the zinnias just for fun. I may or may not put some flowers down the middle of the tomato one, but tomatoes will get so tall that you won't be able to see anything there anyway. So I might just leave it alone. But in the future, if I add additional beds, I definitely want to go narrower. My old house, my beds that my husband built were only 3 feet wide, mostly because of a lack of space in the area we had to work with. But that ended up being a really comfortable width for me. I could reach the middle, no problem, from either side. I guess 4 feet, I'd technically be able to reach the middle. But for when you're harvesting something from the backside of a plant, it's not fun. I'd rather be able to reach from the backside of the plant from across the bed if I can. So I might do beds that are 3 feet wide when I eventually expand. Here's the area I would be hopefully expanding to. Oh yeah, and then here we've got my extra tomatillos, my extra peppers, which seem to be looking okay, even though they were not under a little temporary greenhouse. They've been outside the entire time like this. Well, for, the last few days past the heat wave. I haven't extra tomato starts that I haven't decided. Maybe some of them will go in the back garden. I don't know. They're getting root bound too and looking a little tired of being in these little pots. So just outside, here's my raised bed area, and just outside that, and kind of near the house, we have what I'm calling, these are table grapes, which just means they are seedless grapes for eating, not for making wine. These came with the house, and they actually had labels, so I know that I've got your basic green grapes, red grapes, and Concord purple grapes, and all of them are seedless. So, but these plants, this one's doing okay. I don't know if these were like brand new right before they sold the house or what, but I do know that we neglected watering them last summer because there was so much to do moving in. It was like, what do you do first? So I have since added a soaker hose winding around all of these grapes, so they're gonna get plenty of water now during the dry season, and I'll probably add some fertilizer, and hopefully eventually they'll get big enough that we'll actually get some good grapes. Unlike the ones on the other side of the property back there, much bigger grape plants, but as far as I've been able to tell, those are all seeded grapes, and I am not interested in that. So now we'll head up to my husband's garden on the back, we call it the back 40, even though it's only a 2.5 acre plot. So I keep calling this my husband's garden because he's the one who set it up, and he had these grand plans last summer. We must grow a lot of food. And he set it all up, and then by the time spring rolled around, he just has lost interest. So this is now mine to take care of, I guess. My potatoes that I planted in my very first YouTube video. It's hard to see. The straw makes it really hard to see, but they're all coming up. We have russets down one side and red potatoes down the other side. I need to add much more straw as they're starting to grow tall enough that they need more straw. Then we have empty beds with weeds, but these have their little mounds of soil more or less ready to plant in as soon as I get these weeds under control again. And there's my tripod sprinkler. And here is the rhubarb that came with the place. I honestly have never eaten rhubarb before. I know you can make desserts with it and things, but I've never tried it, so I don't know, just kind of, what should I make? Any ideas? I know there's like rhubarb crisp or something, rhubarb strawberry, rhubarb pie, but strawberries aren't quite in season here yet. Next month they will be. So, I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep them or maybe our volunteer potato again. That would be fun because I have no idea what variety that's going to be. And one of our many wild blackberry plants that we need to deal with before they take over. So you can see, I don't know if you can see the beds, but there are 5.5 empty beds here right now. I am probably going to put some corn here. And probably definitely some pumpkins just for fun. Oh, and melons, cantaloupes, watermelons. In the past, I grew cantaloupes really, really well on a trellis with little, basically hammocks to support them. And that's how I was growing them in California in a very small garden. But here I have the space where they can actually sprawl out. So I'm curious to see how they turn out in this climate, in totally different growing setup. Let's head over to the chickens. Oh, by the way, I do have some random fruit trees here. They're outside of the orchard. I'm trying to remember what these are. They don't get watered very well because they're not anywhere close to a hose bib. All right, semi-dwarf red Fuji apple. We got a couple of little fruits here. We'll see if they stick around, but it's a really small, spindly looking tree still. And then there's this one. Let's see. Semi-dwarf Fuji apple. So I guess this is the more yellow colored typical Fuji apple. And oh yeah, we have Fuyu persimmon. The previous owner right before us, there have been like 4 previous owners before we bought this house, but the one right before us, the woman was from Japan originally, and so there are a lot of Japanese inspired trees and plants on the property. Like we have Japanese maple, we have several Japanese cherries, we have Asian pears, those Fuji apples, and then the persimmon. I don't remember what this is, but it is on my tree map somewhere. I don't know. We have like a weeping cherry. I forget what else. There are lots of things. This one, some kind of maple, I guess, or Japanese maple. There's no one over there. I don't remember what this is. I don't see a tag, but again, it's on my map, but really pretty flowers. Whatever this is, I like it. And here we have a fig tree. I don't think I've ever eaten a fig, which may sound crazy. Oh, look, we got one right there. Hey, birdies. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to find them, but the 4 chicks that I posted a couple of my earlier videos, I had given one of my broody chickens some chicks to raise from the feed store, and that was going really, really well for the first 3 or so weeks. And then a predator got the mama. Here, there's the chicks back there. They are now about coming up on 7 weeks old, and up until, day before yesterday, they were in a brooder in my garage, because after Claire was gone, I wasn't sure if they'd be able to find their way into the coop on their own, or if, the other chickens might pick on them, or if it was too cold at night without their mama. So I had them in the brooder in the garage for several weeks with the little heater plate and everything. I'm sure they were bored out of their minds since they spent the first 3 or 4 weeks of their life out here with lots of freedom. But now they're back, and I'm very happy about that. And they're looking a lot different than they were when they were out here before. So now we are inside the orchard / chicken run. I set up a sprinkler right in the middle on a timer. This isn't gonna work that well. Because of all the trees in this one space, there are trees that block the water from going to the further trees. So I might need to put maybe another sprinkler in the corner over there. I'm not sure, but something to give it full coverage all around. There are also a couple of trees that look like they're at death's door. This one is an apricot, and it only has, out of the whole tree, these 2 little clusters of leaves, which, look at that. All of those bare sticks and just two tiny clusters of leaves. So I'm debating about just taking this one out and putting something new in or near that spot. We have this big peach tree, which looks kind of sad too. It's got, lots of sticks, but some leaves. We did have these trees pruned by a professional company in the fall, but I'm not sure. And I know you're supposed to prune fruit trees in the winter, but again, we were overwhelmed with all kinds of stuff going on. We just had to get this place under control and then go from there. So I'm not sure what kind of pruning they did, but I haven't been that impressed because, for example, on this cherry tree over here, there are these 2 huge suckers. There is no way that these suckers weren't here in the fall when they came and pruned these trees. So I have no idea what tree trimming company would think that it was a good idea to leave those. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm rather let down. Then we have some branches here with dying leaves. But we do have some tiny little cherries coming in. So at least there's something. But I definitely need to get rid of these suckers because, if this was a grafted tree, I'm sure they're coming from the rootstock and might end up taking over the whole tree. So that wouldn't be good. We have, more kind of sad looking. These are cherries also, which there's some on here. And some further up. This almost dead looking thing, I think, is some type of plum. I need to get my map out and remember what all these are. But look at it. It's got, even the leaves that came in are dying. So plus a million suckers. You know, I've got a lot of trees with half sticks and half leaves or less. So I don't know, there are things that I'm just, would rather grow something, you know, I don't really want to raise or try to bring back to life some of these half dead trees, unless they're fruits that we're really interested in. I think this is a plum. Yeah, we got there's a plum right there. Probably another plum here. This is an Asian pear, which seems to be doing better. We've got 2 of these trees. But last year, the Asian pears that we got were like golf ball size at best. But again, the trees were neglected for a while before we got, you know, watering under control last year. So they took a hit, and that's totally our fault. We got more on this one. Then we have this, I believe, is a green apple. And it's obviously been through some rough times before we ever got here. So they put a board to, I guess, keep it from falling over. There are these like rope slings keeping branches from breaking off. It's just not great. So I don't know if it's worth keeping a tree like this that's just falling down, but it does have apples, you know. So I'm gonna try bagging some of these apples to prevent bug damage. I saw an idea online that you can put little Ziploc sandwich bags around the fruits, and then you cut just the little corners of the bag that allows moisture to come out. And I saw someone with some pretty impressive results of their bagged fruit versus their unbagged fruit. These are pears, looking really good so far. But I'm not gonna bag them until I thin them out to, you know, 1 fruit per cluster. I think this is another apple. I don't remember what kind, but then we got some apples. And more apples of some unknown sort. These might be Fuji apple also. I know that there was a Fuji apple in this grove on the map. There was green apple and Fuji apple. That's all. And I think these are definitely pears. I think they might be 2 different kinds. We got some pears going here. So I like that these are down low and they'll be easy to pick. But I'm definitely going to bag, especially the ones that are down low, before the fruit's totally mature, before bugs can get to them, hopefully. And more pears. I tried picking them last year, but they were all they had so much bug damage, it wasn't even worth trying to eat them. So I'm hoping maybe this year will be different. Oh yeah, and this one's a peach tree, which I got exactly 1 peach off last year. But I do see, let's see, where they go. There's some little fruits starting to form there. But you know, here's some right here. But this is another tree that's like, it's got some leaves, but it's mostly sticks. So I just don't know, but it's a really big tree, so and I like peaches. It'd be sad to have to take it out. And I don't know, we'll just have to see how it goes. Here's our little group of chicks. We have the Polish that my son Lucas has named Bob Ross for his hairdo. And this one that looks dark gray is actually a chocolate Orpington. His name, or her name, is Willy Wonka. And then the other 2 are Easter eggers, and they are the Oompa Loompas. Only about half of our chickens even have names. This one's, oh boy, I can't remember now. Chonka, I think. This, I think Buff Orpington came from the neighbors. Her name is Joy. These other 2, I don't think they have names. We have one named Flossie around here somewhere, and we have one named, oh, there he is, she. I keep saying he because they have silly boy names, but this one is Larry. I don't remember if I mentioned before, but we used to have 2 Larrys. They looked exactly the same. And when we got them, we knew we wouldn't be able to tell them apart, so my husband just proclaimed that they were the Larrys. But then we lost one of the Larrys to a predator a few months back, so we just have one Larry now. I don't have any treats right now. And speaking of chickens, all right, so let's take a peek. Oh, I now have not one, but two broody hens. This one is Ember. You can tell they're broody because that's what they do. If you try to put your hand near them, they'll puff up. Their feathers puff up like this, and they'll start to protest a little. I haven't had one try to attack me or anything, and usually I can move them aside and like, I got eggs in there. Oh, I think it's, oh, that's one of our fake eggs. So that's Ember. She only recently went broody, I don't know, maybe less than a week ago. And then we have Lightning. You gonna do that? You gonna puff up? She's been here a lot longer like this. She's more used to me poking her and bugging her and looking for eggs under her. Yep, she's got some. I will come back later and get those. But I definitely want to give these two a couple of chicks because that was such a fun experience, and you know, they're just probably going to sit there until they have chicks, or I put them in a crate to try and break their broodiness. I don't really want to do that. Let me go back into the run to explain. I probably don't need to go all the way. All right, so the reason I don't just give them chicks right away, as tempting as it is this orchard fence, you can see, has pretty big holes. And when I had that first set of chicks, she took their mama Claire took them out pretty much the very first day, and it wasn't long before they were hopping through the fence where they could get in and out easily, but Claire couldn't get to them, and so she would panic a little, and then they managed to get back in. But there were a couple of nights where I found one where they were confused about getting back into the coop, and so I found one roaming around in the grape patch when all the other chickens had gone back. And there were a couple of weeks where one of the chickens, Willy Wonka, just refused to go in, no matter how hard I tried. Claire would be in there with her other babies, but Willy Wonka refused to go in. And so I would have to go and chase her around and grab her and put her in every night until she finally figured it out, like literally days before Claire died, and we had to put her in the garage anyway. But anyway, I had started, I don't know if you can see, I had started to put chicken wire along the inside of this fence so that, you know, obviously so the chicks wouldn't be able to make it through. I did it on this section first because right on the other side here is what we call the alley between the coop and the fence, and the chicks were getting in there and not being able to figure out how to get back out. And so they would sometimes even they would get in, come around this corner and get in there and then not be able to get in because of the chicken wire I had put up. Or their mom would be under the coop and they'd be in the alley and trying to go through the fence. It was just kind of a disaster. So before I do that again, my plan is to line this entire orchard fence with that chicken wire, just so I'll know that no babies can get out by accident. But this is a big job. I think I measured, it was like 160 feet of chicken wire. I will just be zip tying it to the inside of the existing fence. But I'm procrastinating. I'm not looking forward to that project. But I can't get chicks until I get it done, so I'm gonna have to do it. Another thing I did this weekend, I moved what I call the chicken garden. It was over that way, which is a little more of a slope, and it also wasn't close to the water line. So I moved them down here. It's a little bit more level, except for this one. But then we have a water spigot right here, which, ooh, it's dripping. I gotta fix that later. Anyway, so I was able to I hooked up a drip system to these 3 pots. You can see it's like the brown tubing is emitter line. It has little holes along the tubing. So I just wound it through there. And in the middle of each one of these, I put one of those spoon tomatoes that are planted just for the chickens. I mean, we can eat them too, but they're teeny tiny tomatoes. So And that's why I've got them here close to the chicken run. But I gotta fix that. But yeah, there's a timer that will water this, and also goes to this hose which waters the grape and berry patch. So I now have all the main garden areas hooked up to water, automatic water, and I don't have to worry about, you know, in general, most things are gonna get watered well enough at least. All right, I guess that's my update for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.